Let's talk about the Allegory of the Cave by Plato. So what's the story all about? The allegory, if you will. Well, Plato talks about a guy. He's just hanging out, sitting on the ground, not particularly very happy. And he's looking up and watching a show. And he's not alone. There's bunches of them. They're all sitting there looking up at a big screen, watching the action go by. And they can't move because they're all chained up. And all this is life as normal to Plato. Until one day, up pops Bob, and Bob breaks free. Woohoo! And he starts to look around at this environment that he's been chained in his entire life. And he looks up at the action that he's been watching for years and sees behind it that it's really screen, there's a big fire, and there's a puppet master back there who's putting on a show. He's like, that's weird. And then he looks around a little bit more and realizes he's in a cave. He's like, well, that's odd too, so let's go see where this cave goes. So Bob gets himself up and he starts walking out of the cave. And he climbs up to the top of the cave and he climbs out, and Bob is excited, like super excited. Wow, excited. And he sees the sun, he sees the trees, and he says, this is the real world. The whole time I was staring at that screen, it was just a dull interpretation and image of this awesome place in which I live right now. So good friend Bob he sprints back down the cave and he tells his friends, you have to see this. Come on guys, you gotta go. Well, they think he's a little crazy because they've been sitting chained this whole time watching the interpretation of the real world as Bob's telling them, and who wants to be told they've only been hanging out with an imitation? But he convinces them, he breaks them free, he knocks those chains, and they get up and they follow Bob up the cave. And they get up there and Bob goes, this is the best ever, don't you think so? And they disagree completely. They are not happy. They don't think this is great at all. It's too bright and it hurts their eyes and it's so much to experience. After living their entire lives in a dark, damp cave, staring at puppets on a screen, this just freaks them out. And so they run back downstairs, or back into the cave, if you will, and chain themselves back up, sit down, and ask, when's the next show? This is Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Plato used allegories like this to inspire thought and reflect upon the real world, the life we live in it, and its implications for the morality of which we as humans should behave. The interpretation of what this story means is up to you. And with that, I'll leave you to reflect and ponder on Plato's greater meaning of the Allegory of the Cave.